Pughe here. Today I'm looking at the chords to Count Basie's Blues in C. There are two previous videos on this song, one on the melody and one on a Joe Pass solo, so please check those out when you get a chance. We're going to use two shapes to play the chords in this song. So there are 5 chords: C7, F7, G7, so that is your 1, your 4, and your 5. C is 1, F7 is 4, G7 is 5. But we also have an A7 and a D7. So, those will get used in the turnaround. So it's got it's very basic blues, but when we get to the last 2 measures, the turnaround's a little bit fancier. So the C7 chord starts off life as an E chord down on frets open 1, 2. So we've got an E, a B, another E, a G sharp, another B, and another E. To make it an E7, we lift off the 3rd finger, and that will give us a D on string 4. So even though we have less fingers on the guitar, we actually have more notes. So we have E, B, D, G sharp, B, E. If we play those notes with fingers 2 and 3, it's still an E7, but we've got the 1st finger loose to make it a bar chord. So I'm going to slide up 1 fret, and now we're at F. So this would be an F7, and it would be movable because there are no open strings. So if we move it up to fret 8, we've got a C7. So this is a great chord, but it's not a great chord in this context. It has too many strings and too many low notes. If you're playing in this kind of a tune, a jazz blues, you want to leave room for the bass player to walk. You can use the 5th string, you can use the 6th string, but you can't use them both. That's the basic rule that I'm going to urge you to observe when you're playing with a bass player. If you're playing a hard rock tune that's based on power chords, you're going to want those strings 6 and 5. However, in this kind of a tune, you don't want that sound. So it's a context-sensitive rule. So in order to play this C7 at fret 8, but get the sound that we want, we're going to refinger it. So the notes that we have are C, G, B flat, E, G, C. So that would be the 1 is the C, the G is the 5, B flat is flat 7, E is the 3, G is another 5, C is another root. So we only are going to play 3 strings. We're going to play string 6, 4, 3. So we're going to put the 2nd finger on the C. So we've got a root, then we've got the 3rd finger on the B flat, so there's a flat 7, and then we've got the 4th finger on the E, so we've got a 3. So it's an incomplete chord. Root, flat 7, 3. But with a bass player, the bass player will play the 5 when it's necessary. Leave some space for them. Now, we're using no open strings. I've kind of tipped my fingers over a little so the 5th string's going click, and the 2nd string's going click, and the 1st string's going click. So I can strum relatively freely and not get any unwanted strings. If we move this up 2 frets, we would have a D, a C, and an F sharp. So there would be our D7. So that's the 1st shape that we're going to use. The 2nd shape starts life as a C chord. If we play a C chord down on open and frets 1, 2, 3, we have C, E, G, C, E. So if we make it a C7, we're going to add the 4th finger on the B flat. So we now have C, E, B flat, C, E. So notice we lost the G. Still sounds like a C7. It's a great chord, but it's got too many strings, and the notes are kind of close together. So we're gonna move the 3rd finger to string 6, then we'll have the G, E, B flat, C, and we'd have another E if we use the open string, so it would be a complete chord. In this case, we're not going to use the first string, so we have no open strings. So that would be a C7. We move it up 2 frets, it's a D7. If we move it up 2 frets, 6, 7, 8, it's an F7. Now, once again, we want to play a 3-note voicing. So even though it's a 4-note chord, F, A, C, E flat, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, we don't want to play all those notes. We're going to leave some out. So in this case, we're going to leave out the root. So we're going to play the C with the second finger, the A with the first finger, and the E flat with the third finger. So we've got another 3-note voicing. It's an incomplete chord, and it's a rootless voicing. There is no F in this chord, but it's an F7. If you move your second finger over to string 5, there's the F. So that's the imaginary root. Now, when we go from the C7 to the F7, notice that the second finger doesn't move. So all of these chords in this example are going to have the second finger on string 6. So that's kind of my pivot finger. That's where I'm going to locate everything from. I've got a C7 and a D7 with one shape, and then I'll have an F7, a G7, and an A7 with the other shape. So with only 2 shapes and not moving around very much, I can get a lot of chords. I recommend that you have a metronome. Once again, a metronome that goes click, not a drum machine, and set it at 60. Now, we're going to tap our foot on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we want the pick to agree with the foot. So the pick is going to go up on 1 and down on 2. Up on 3, down on 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F7. G7, C7, A7, D7, G7, and we're back to the top. So this is going to give a slight accent on the 2 and the 4, and that will fit nicely in this style. Now, you should look at the notes on strings 4 and 3. So here's our C7. We've got a B flat and an E. We go to the F7. Both of those notes, the bottom note, the C, stays the same, but those 2 notes, the flat 7, the B flat, and the 3, the E, are going to go down 1/2 step, which is 1 fret. So the E will go down to E flat, and the B flat will go down to A. So they moved down 1/2 step. When we go to the back to the C7, they will go back up. And then when we go to the G7, even though our second finger moves 2 frets, a whole step, those 2 notes only move 1/2 step. So the C7 and the F7, C7, G7, they're all a half step apart on those strings. So now, when we go from the C7 to the A7, they jump up quite a ways. But notice when we go to the D7, they move down one half step, one fret. We go to the G7, they move down another half step. We go back to the C7, and they're down one more half step. The 3 and the flat 7 are moving around by half steps. So this is kind of a cool thing. So you know, if you want, you can actually just play those 2 notes and get most of the flavor of the 7 chord. The 3 is defining whether it's major or minor, and the flat 7 is defining it as a dominant chord. So you've really got the important notes and on those 2 strings on every chord. So if you talk to a sax player or a trumpet player, they will tell you, that those are the guide tones. I'll just play those 2 notes, the notes on strings 4 and 3 out of these chords through the tune, and you'll be able to hear that it is indeed covering a lot. Back to C7, G7, C7, A7, D7, G7, C7. I hope you've enjoyed this video on blues in C, the chords on 6/4/3. It gives you it's a different sound. It's not better or worse than playing other chords, but stylistically it's different than if you play the bigger chords. So give it a try. See if it makes your bass player happy. Hope you have a good week, and I will see you next week. Thank you very much.